The latest spaceflight by American aerospace giant Blue Origin has drawn significant attention amid a flurry of mixed opinions surrounding private space exploration. The mission, conducted with the New Shepard spacecraft designated NS-31, lasted just over 10 minutes and carried several high-profile passengers into space, offering a brief but thrilling experience. However, unlike the usual excitement that follows a crewed spaceflight, this mission was met with criticism and backlash over how Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos handled it. The company has made quite a few serious missteps, and that might be one of the main reasons why its reputation is taking such a hit right now. The all-female crew, including high-profile celebrities like Katy Perry and Gayle King, led some to view NS-31 as a publicity stunt rather than a scientific endeavor. Critics argued that the mission prioritized media attention over substantive contributions to space exploration. For example, posts on X labeled it a tourist flight, misrepresented as a mission, with a poorly designed mission patch adding to the perception of superficiality. Actress Olivia Munn questioned the mission's purpose, asking, "What are they going to do up there that has made it better for us down here?" Similarly, a New York Times op-ed criticized the flight as a morally vacuous space stunt, contrasting it with broader societal issues. The involvement of Lauren Sanchez, Jeff Bezos' fiancée, who organized the mission, and the presence of celebrity guests like Oprah Winfrey and the Kardashians at the launch amplified accusations of elitism and spectacle. But before calling this flight an overhyped publicity stunt, we also need to consider the scientific aspects that were carried out during the mission. Unlike previous New Shepard missions, such as NS-23, which carried 36 scientific payloads, NS-31 was primarily a space tourism flight. While Aisha Bowe conducted 3 research experiments on plant biology and human physiology, the mission's scientific output was minimal compared to its promotional aspects. Critics argued that this focus undermined Blue Origin's credibility as a serious aerospace company. The customized flight suits, designed by a fashion brand, further reinforced the perception that the mission prioritized aesthetics over substance. There have also been several unusual findings regarding Blue Origin's New Shepard capsule. One of the most talked about issues is how the spacecraft appeared almost completely unaffected by the extreme heat typically encountered during re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Usually, spacecraft like NASA's Space Shuttle or SpaceX's Crew Dragon face temperatures reaching thousands of degrees Celsius due to atmospheric friction, which leaves visible burn marks or discoloration on their exteriors. But New Shepard showed no such signs, leading some people to question whether the flight actually took place. Another point of debate is the design of New Shepard's hatch, which opens inward. Critics argue that real spacecraft usually have outward-opening hatches to ensure safety in emergencies, especially when internal cabin pressure is higher than the outside. An inward-opening door, they say, is unusual and could hint at a simulated flight rather than a real one. Despite the growing number of theories, Blue Origin has yet to issue any official response. Could this silence be an attempt to dodge the more pointed questions? It's hard to tell what they're so worried about, but their continued lack of transparency certainly isn't helping. We've seen them keep quiet like this in the past whenever criticism comes up around their operations. It's a sharp contrast to SpaceX, which has built a reputation for being open and transparent. That's also a big part of why SpaceX has gained so much public support. If Blue Origin truly sees SpaceX as a model for its own growth, it should start taking a page from its rival's book. If they keep dodging important issues without addressing them openly, Blue Origin risks being pushed further away by the space community. And even if they succeed technically, deeper problems within the company culture could still lead to instability, or even long-term decline. This has clearly been proven by Blue Origin's past failures. Take the New Shepard spacecraft, for example. It's a vehicle with rather limited activity in the space industry. Since 2015, it has completed a total of 31 suborbital flights, but only 11 of those, counting the most recent one, have actually carried humans. Even though it hasn't flown often, the issues New Shepard has faced have been quite serious when they've happened. One of the most notable incidents occurred at the end of 2022, when a serious malfunction forced New Shepard to stay grounded for nearly a year. Just 1 minute after liftoff, the rocket hit max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. But around that time, it appeared to suffer a major explosion. The New Shepard crew capsule, mounted on top of the rocket, then automatically triggered its launch abort system, activating a small engine to safely separate itself from the failing rocket. The system worked as intended, and the capsule parachuted safely back to Earth. Blue Origin later revealed that the issue stemmed from a problem with the engine nozzle, a large cone that directs the fiery exhaust out of the rocket's base. According to the company, the onboard computer correctly detected the failure and shut down the engine. No injuries on the ground were reported, and Blue Origin stated that the science payloads in the capsule were still reusable. However, the booster, with no functioning engine, crashed back to Earth and was destroyed. Normally, after a New Shepard launch, the rocket booster autonomously returns to land vertically so it can be reused. This was a very serious incident, and the FAA launched an investigation. The findings showed that the engine nozzle had failed due to higher than expected temperatures, something Blue Origin hadn't accounted for. While the company has since addressed the issue and successfully flown New Shepard 8 more times since that failure, the event still casts a shadow over the rocket's future, especially for flights carrying people. And that's not the end of it. Earlier in 2024, the first crewed flight since the 2022 incident ran into trouble with its parachutes during landing. The problem seems to have been resolved, but Blue Origin provided very little information to the public about the parachute issue or the investigation. They didn't even mention it in the mission's official press release. Honestly, this just raises more doubts about what Blue Origin is really doing with its rocket program. And if things keep going this way, how long will it take them to catch up to SpaceX? In my opinion, 5 years would be the minimum, if not decades. Besides New Shepard, how could we forget to talk about New Glenn and its engine, the BE-4? Although New Glenn finally launched successfully earlier this year, getting to that point was anything but easy for Blue Origin. Originally announced in 2020, New Glenn's debut was delayed to 2021 due to technical challenges. Losing a major contract in 2020 was a huge blow. It cost Blue Origin $250 million in technical funding and $3 billion in potential revenue. That setback pushed New Glenn's launch to 2022, then again to 2024, even after the company completed its design reviews. But problems kept popping up. Developing New Glenn has been a massive financial strain, especially without government support. Blue Origin poured over $2.5 billion into the project, including $1 billion just for Launch Complex 36. The company had to rely on commercial contracts from NASA and Amazon's Project Kuiper, but without early-stage funding, progress slowed. It's a clear example of the financial pressure companies face in the space industry. Fortunately, a successful hot fire test in September 2024 and the integration of the launch pad by year's end brought new hope. But then came another setback. The January 2025 launch was postponed. And when New Glenn finally lifted off on January 16th, it reached orbit, but the booster was lost. Follow-up launches, originally planned for early 2025, have now been pushed back to late spring. This all suggests that there are underlying issues Blue Origin isn't openly discussing. In fact, the company may have more unresolved problems than most people realize. Despite that, a recent update from NASA's Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, shared during a public meeting, stated that the next New Glenn launch is expected sometime around June. But seriously, can Blue Origin really pull that off? Or is this going to be another empty promise like so many in the past? Don't not forget that New Glenn has been in development for over a decade, and the original goal was to recover the booster after its very first flight. They couldn't even manage that. And with all the lingering issues and the lack of visible hardware testing, it's starting to feel more like pressure than genuine progress. If that's the case, the end result could be extremely risky, or even a complete disaster. And let's not overlook Blue Origin's struggles with its engine development program, something the company has tried hard to keep under wraps. In June 2023, a BE-4 engine exploded just 10 seconds into an acceptance test at Blue Origin's West Texas facility. The blast destroyed the engine, which had been slated for the second Vulcan launch, CERT-2, and caused major damage to the test stand. Eyewitnesses described the explosion as extremely serious, and video footage reportedly showed extensive destruction, though Blue Origin never released the footage. Unlike SpaceX, which is known for sharing its test results openly, Blue Origin stayed quiet, only confirming the incident after CNBC broke the news. This reluctance has drawn sharp criticism, highlighting the company's secretive and overly cautious culture, one that stands in stark contrast to SpaceX's fast-paced, open, and iterative testing philosophy. Even before the explosion, the BE-4, meant to compete with SpaceX's Raptor, was years behind schedule. It was supposed to be ready by 2019, but ended up being delayed by 5 years. This not only held back New Glenn, but also delayed the Vulcan rocket from ULA. So after everything, years of delays, missed targets, engine failures, and a series of underwhelming launches, Blue Origin has yet to deliver a true breakthrough in its space program. What we've seen instead is growing skepticism and increasing criticism from within the space community, both from professionals and space enthusiasts alike. The question now is no longer just about technology or funding. It's about vision, transparency, and whether Blue Origin can shift its internal culture to meet the demands of a fast-evolving aerospace landscape. While SpaceX continues to iterate rapidly, share its successes and failures openly, and inspire confidence with every milestone, Blue Origin remains shrouded in secrecy, weighed down by overly cautious decision-making, and what appears to be a reluctance to fully engage with the public or the industry at large. So, how can they grow? How can they realistically hope to catch up to SpaceX, or even establish themselves as a reliable leader in the new space economy? The truth is, that path will be incredibly difficult and possibly unattainable unless Blue Origin is willing to change, fundamentally and from within. They'll need to embrace a spirit of innovation that's not afraid to fail in public. They'll need to communicate more openly, build trust through action, and foster a company culture that thrives on experimentation, accountability, and ambition. And so, we're left wondering, what will Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin actually do next? Will they finally rise to the occasion and reinvent themselves to meet this new era of space exploration? Or will they remain in the shadows of their competitors, weighed down by missed opportunities and unrealized potential? Only time will tell. But if they're serious about competing with SpaceX, they'd better start showing it. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.